start now. So today's episode, of course, is domestic violence. Turn around, hoping for the better. Um, that's a powerful message within itself. We have Ashley M. She is a domestic violence advocate. As you can see, she's on the screen today. So thank you, Ashley, for joining in and giving us some time and dropping some gems. It's going to be a good conversation. Good conversation. She, as I said, she's an advocate. So I will be saying her information if you want to reach out to her. Just for this episode, guys, we are still going to keep stuff a little discreet, a HIPAA violation. So we want her to still keep her job, but still help us in the process of it. So if you do have any questions or anything, you can email her at info@shotfemininegalore.com. When I do post this video, I would put her contact information and you can reach out to her directly. So you can just have a little privacy as well. The song of the episode is definitely Raw, Katy Perry. And I always do a quote, I'm a quote fanatic. And this one came from Ashley as well. Use the darkness of your past to propel you to a bright future. 2 snaps for that one. Really good. 2 snaps. And just because this is a sensitive topic, viewers' discretion, we are not like, licensed and MD on the situation, but people do have their opinions and concerns, comments, whatever. Just we're gonna keep it respectful as much as we can. Point blank period. If you get disrespectful, get off the live. I'm not having it. And we're just gonna jump right in. And Ashley, thank you again for coming on. So
thank you for having me.
What you do, like your role today.
I do a lot of things. No, but so my name is Ashley. I'm an advocate for domestic violence, as well as the founder and creator of Feminine Galore. So I make also organic feminine hygiene products and skincare products. As you will always hear me talk about, I always combine self-care with self-love, which also entitles into the type of field work that I do. So I do like human services work, like social work, that type of field work. So I'm always advocating on numerous topics, whether it's social justice, domestic violence, restorative justice, the whole 9.
Right.
So that's the type of work that I do, and I love it.
Good. And I'm glad that you are in this field because we don't have many people of color, young especially, who cares so much about the topic to wants to do it. And I'm glad and I'm grateful that you are one of those people that people can be, and you're relatable and they can reach out to you for that kind of help. So we're just going to talk about the different types of domestic violence. Everybody knows that there is, the physical one, but yes, that's the 0 no higher ones, but there are other ones. Like, can you explain to us what other types of DV there is?
Right. So when people think of possibly domestic violence, people think of just physical amongst like partners. No, domestic violence could be amongst like family members, friends, a spouse. And then there's the different types. There's physical, there's emotional, financial abuse in regards to, say, if someone is working and they don't have free access to their own money.
Right.
There's also like family abuse in regards to, say, if they're not allowing you to see your family. So there's different types, and also verbal abuse.
Right.
So there's multiple different types of domestic violence abuse, not just physical.
Right. And just about the different types, because I was also doing research on it. So the verbal abuse, they did now consider hate speech as verbal abuse. And I feel like that verbal abuse, like the hate speech, like really targets towards like the LGBTQ community, and transgender stuff like that. They are always getting slandered and hate just because of who they are. They're living in their truth. Let them be. Let them mind their business. Let them be who they need to be. So I feel like they suffer verbal abuse all the time, just walking down the street. So it's like they're just a victim of that as well. And you said too, like the physical part. So does the physical violence play a hand with like the sexual violence of abuse? And so like rape and sexual harassment, if that can be a part of domestic violence as well.
Actually, yes, it can. Sexual abuse, because people think that, okay, so since they're in a relationship, they have to have sex with this person. So say if someone's, I don't know, tired, whether they're a female or a guy, and they're like, oh, I'm just tired, I just kind of don't want to right now, but then the person forcibly does it, that couldn't be considered rape. Although you're in a relationship, whether it's just girlfriend, boyfriend, or in a marriage, that's still considered like rape.
Absolutely.
So, right. So, because it's, yeah, once again, you're not giving consent. You know what I mean? Consent is a big thing, as in, like, yes, I want to do this. Yes, I'm okay. But if you're not, like, that's not consensual.
Right. Yeah. No means no. We see it on Law and Order all the time. It's no. Even if you're in the act of it and you can't and say no, it is still no. Like I even teach my daughter, like even stop. Like we tell her to stop doing something, we try to get her in the habit of knowing stop means stop. So when somebody else, you say to somebody else, stop means stop. Like this is my boundaries, respect it.
Right.
And you also said that domestic violence can be within friendships. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
So in regards to friendships, as in like, say someone's saying like something verbally abusive to you, like, girl, like, oh please, you was not worth this, or oh no, you cannot do this. You sure that's cute? I don't know why you like
Okay.
that type of thing. Or just honestly something always negative.
Right.
There's a difference between you're telling your friend like, I don't know if this could go and I'm not sure how this may be, but then there's also like you may see amongst like girls or guys, oh okay girl, yeah, she's always doing this, yeah, all right, whatever, she's just so dumb, like
Right.
that's verbal abuse. You're verbally abusing your friend, your friend.
Right. Like are we friends or not? Like it's a respectful way to say like, okay,
Right.
like me and my boys like, like you look crazy. Or yes, bitch, hype them up. But me and my other friends, like we encourage one another. And then you have that toxic friend who play what you just said, and it's like now in my head thinking, I'm like, do I have extra ones? Because I need to X them out my life if they are, because
and also just respecting your, once again, a big thing, and I'm all for is boundaries, right? We all have boundaries,
right?
So you say, for instance, right, say some people may like hugs, some may not like hugs. So now if your friend doesn't like hug, but then you're reaching for it, you're not respecting her boundaries,
right?
That's a big thing. Or send to the top, or somebody's like, honestly, I've been through a certain situation, can you kind of not really talk about that, or kind of really mention something like that? And you're like, oh, okay, I understand. Or else, some people are like, oh girl, whatever, and then keep on talking about it, or like, what I mean, you're still not respecting a person's boundaries.
Right. A boundaries is important for everything. Domestic life, not in regular neutral, is a part of life
in general, right?
Now, and that's what we're working on, boundaries. And I feel like me teaching her is still teaching me, like to still have within. And two, because we're all told just right now, in case people were joining, and we're talking about the different types of domestic violence. So you said financial domestic violence as well, not having access to your paycheck. So what about well, I know, like making that person dependent on you. So like you don't make them work, but you have all the income. Like you like, okay, you be a stay-at-home mom and I would take care of every bill. Would you consider that, like, what's the borderline?
Like a financial abuse?
Would you, like, somebody be like, okay, yeah, I would like to, but then what's the borderline between domestic, like, abuse, or like this is genuinely what it needs to be?
So with financial abuse, is literally saying like you have no access. So even if, say, you're a stay-at-home mom, right, and the husband or wife is a provider, then say if you need to go to the grocery store, like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go to the grocery store, you went to the account or something like that, right? That's okay. You still have access. You're still having access to that financial. Whereas when it's financial abuse, you're not having any access. So I don't know if doctors' offices are there kind of acting like, do you feel safe at home? Do you have access to these things? They're asking in regards to domestic violence, because usually people may not have access to things like even just simple documents? Do you have
Yeah.
access to your important documents that you need? Do you have access to your money? So I would say in regards to, say there are some like stay-at-home moms or dads, but I feel like that's something probably I would think hopefully in agreement that they came upon, or like, you know, their relationship dynamic, right? Everyone has a different relationship dynamic, right? Some people are like, oh, 50-50. Some people are like, oh no, this guy he's gonna pay all the rent, or I'm gonna pay utility, whatever, however it works for you guys, but you still have access to something. It's not like, yo, hold on, like, no, this is mine right here. Like, what are you doing? You still are able to have, because we need money, right? We need money to survive. You need money to buy things, pay bills,
Right.
Things like that. And if you're not having access to financial, how are you going to go anywhere?
Exactly. and that too, keeping them secluded is a part of mental abuse as well. Like, so many forms of abuse, and we don't recognize, like, okay, maybe that person just protecting us, but then it's like, nah, honey, like, you got to know how to put everything to different categories, especially like you just, like, that having, like, you're confined to one house, like isolation is a part of mental abuse, and like threat, like all that stuff is very much important, and we just need to know. So you need to educate you guys, like educate yourself as much as you can, and not just, but once you educate, don't overthink it, like, oh my god, he said don't go out today, that's abuse. No, just like, maybe you went out too much, like sit down somewhere. Like, you have to know the difference between abuse and then someone genuinely looking out for you too. Not everything can fall into that. Physical abuse, everybody knows the physical abuse, but we know, of course, it's not just when men and females that deal with it. It can be children as well. So can you elaborate how domestic violence could pertain to a child, just without giving too much?
Right. So, say amongst a child and a family member, or even say if the parents have, like, or even if they're not the exact parents, say if it's mom and a boyfriend or something like that, they could be also a witness of domestic violence. So that's another huge thing, you know what I mean? So it's kind of considered like they've been through domestic violence, but not necessarily because they witness it, but because they're seeing this, it could still be considered domestic violence, you know what I mean? And then also domestic violence could be against with a family member, like family member beating a child up, that could be considered severe, you know, domestic violence, physical abuse, correction. But
it's not, and two, it's okay, like we always hear women getting abused, but it is okay, men, to come forward to say that I am being abused. It's don't be ashamed, because you know the statistics of it. It's like, oh, females, we always worry about females, but it's like, no, it's some men out there that get to it, and women is not so innocent, and we need to advocate for both men, women, child, transgender, whoever you are. If you pink, black, purple, yellow, we need to advocate for you as well. Like, it's no discrimination against domestic violence. It's not right. And again, if you are in that kind of situation, I will definitely put out Ashley's information, and she can go forward with that. But moving forward, now that we know the different types of domestic violence, how would you explain to someone how to make a safety plan, those who are in those domestic violence situations?
So when it comes to, say, if especially if the perpetrator is living with the victim, we usually ask, like, okay, still have to ask a question, because you can't just assume that they're not safe at home. You know, you still ask, do you feel safe at home? Even though it may sound like a dumb question, but they may be like, nah, I'm okay. Believe it or not, some people are like, oh, okay, you know, I actually feel all right, or I'm not really too worried, or like, no, I actually don't feel safe at all. So that's the number one question I always ask clients first. Before anything, or I always ask, like, what's the safe address that you would like to provide in case of anything. So, and then say if there's a situation of where they're like, I don't feel safe at home, and I'm like, okay, do you have like a family member or another support that you could go to? If they're like, no, then I'll try to mention like a shelter for them to temporarily get into. Then that goes in regards to the safety plan. So with the safety plan, I ask them, what are the emergency contacts, if anything, that they feel like they need to have. in order to, like, I don't want to say necessarily escape plan, but to try to get away from their perpetrator. What are some other resources they can go to? Because a lot of people sometimes don't know resources or where they can go to. You know, if they do have social support, like a church or family member, like, okay, this is, and even if they are able to have access to important documents, right? Because you're going to end up needing that. Things like that, like ID, important other paperwork, things of that sort. I know clothing can be an important thing too, but if getting into a shelter or going to, not even if it's not a shelter, another resource place, they are able to provide you with clothing. There's funding for that. There's numerous funding in regards to DV. So they will help you with clothing, try and get you into housing, help you with food. If you have children, try to get them together at school, transportation, mental health counseling. There's so many different things like that. So it's like, there are resources out there that can help furthermore. It's just trying, not even trying, hoping to try to get, you know, to that next step. Because you can still try and it still could be tough. There are situations where, you know, someone has finally got out of it, but then may have returned back, you know. But then they're like, oh, crap, like, I don't know, I was just scared because I'm so used to, or, you know, just so many different things in regards to that. So safety plan, as in having at least important emergency contacts who you feel like you can contact with anything to notify them. Possible other resources, and then sometimes one resource may refer you to another resource. So there's so many different, you know, connections.
So, and you said too, the shelter, they provide you with, you know, clothing, food, and everything. Do they help you get your own apartment as well?
Yes, so they can. Some actually shelters, they have like indoor, like residential apartments. Some will have, you know, private, like it's a shared living room or bathroom or something of that sort. And then there's actual, you know, shelters that have a housing case manager that can help you get into an apartment, provide you, or there's also referrals to DSS to get you assistance into getting into an apartment. Because there's security deposit, there's first month's rent you have to think about too. Sometimes they will be able to help with that, or they're also assigning within consistent case manager. So, you know, sometimes a shelter, I understand it could be scary. There's so many different things that could happen. And people worry also when they have kids, they're like, oh no, I'll stay in a shelter, but I don't want my kids here. Completely understandable. But I always try to have also people think of the positive. There are some positives, positives as in speaking, you know, I don't want to say to the right people, but speaking to staff. You never know, you may have a conversation. Sometimes you may already be assigned a case manager in order to get these other resources and help furthermore with getting into an apartment, and even furniture. There's funding for furniture too. That's a big thing. Furniture is super expensive. Some people can't pay what is it, every paycheck, you know, for a couch and, you know, TV and things of that sort. So there's
okay. And then for people that do want to go to the shelter, but they're scared that that person is going to find them, what's the level of confidentiality that's there? Is it like a 10? Like, oh, you can call and ask for them? Like, how secure is the shelter?
So DV shelters are very strict. Even me as a service provider, I can't just necessarily reach out and just be like, oh yeah, I'm looking for so and so. It depends. You know, if I have consent and they know who I am and, you know, who I work through, then that's completely different. But DV shelters, they cannot, they're very discreet. That's one. Two, clients are not supposed to provide like the actual shelter's number. That's another thing too. Granted, some people may have slip ups. Sometimes a perpetrator may find a way, say they're a family member, whatever the case may be, to get the number. But there's also some shelters, they do have security, some kind of don't. Because, you know, like security could be kind of a way of feeling like not really a prison, but kind of like, why, like, if there's somebody watching, like, you know what I mean, authoritative.
They're paranoid. Pop up on them and everything. Like,
like you want to feel like you're at home, but you're kind of not really at home. You know what I mean? You don't want to feel like, oh my God, like I can't really move. Like you want to be comfortable, especially that a lot of perpetrators could be guys to females. So when they see a guy figure like throwing, it's like, you know, that could be traumatic for the person. But DV shelters are supposed to be strictly confidential. There are sometimes a way where a perpetrator will find a way of communicating, lying about who they are. But there are discreet places. They do have a different number. You can't just necessarily call, you know, this DV counseling. Some places that just do strictly DV counseling, and even that, they can't say much of what they discuss with the person. Like, oh, okay, yeah, we just went over boundaries. Okay, but that's but so much how far it can go. It can be, oh, she mentioned this, that. Like, no, it's very strict. Unless like you're trying to come up with a say if like you're a certain kind of case manager, you're trying to come up with a treatment plan, then that's a little bit different.
Okay.
But if you're someone not in that service, like a service provider, that's not gonna.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. DV shelters are very secure. They're safe. Until you don't have to leave there if you don't want to like roam because you know that you're safe. But the point is.
Oh, another thing too. Sorry, I just remember. People have pets, right? Sometimes people's pets are like their everything, right? People love their dogs, their cats. Sometimes shelters will also help with having their dog, you know, have a safe place to stay, or they'll allow their pets to be there because that's also like they could be their support, right? Or they're like, oh my God, I don't want my perpetrator to harm my dog or my cat. So that's another thing too, as well. If someone has a pet and not a kid or whatever, that shelters will try to help with that.
Okay. We do have some good questions here. Can you talk about the employer policies for women who is not able to work due to DV? Like, so that how would they go about, you know, employment for, because it's been plenty of situations that I've seen, especially wherever that you can't work because you're scared to go to work and you're scared they might pop up at your job and it's going to cycle again. So is it any programs or what kind of resources would you would you suggest for that?
So honestly, jobs are mandated, right? Especially when it comes to like DV, they do technically have to make a report. I will say they're supposed to make a report due to the situation. So even if it's not, they don't see something that's say physical, especially physical, they have to make a report. In regards to that, so I'm like trying to read. And also there are, so say if a person is in a DV situation, not able to work, there is actually, I'm not sure depending on the area, but there is a resource to where they can reimburse you for the time that you've been out. Nice. So there are services like that. There's victim services. I don't know. I don't want to say like there's a certain name, but I don't know if it's certain areas that would be called differently. But there is a form to where it can help reimburse someone that's in a DV situation for their wages, right? That they missed out on. Say if the person broke the phone or something like that, they can try to get reimbursed for that. Took their car or something like that, they can try to get reimbursed for that. I forgot the exact amount, but it could be up to like definitely more than 1,000 of funding wise. But that helps as well because there are situations like that where people are like, I missed out on 5 days. I didn't want to go to work because I had a bruise on my face, or I just wasn't in the mental capacity. I will say that they can try to get reimbursed for their wages, or depend on the policy of their company. Really, that's really honestly it too. Like for instance, the type of field work I do, there is free counseling for mental health. You get free sessions because there's a lot of things mental, right? You're dealing with your own self. You're dealing with also people with trauma and different things. So you are like my job does provide free mental health counseling. You know what I mean? Free sessions that you can have. So that's another thing too. Some jobs may, and it's supposed to be confidential too. As well. So I feel like it also depends on how your company deals with that type of situation. But they are supposed to technically report like, oh my God, if they see like there's a bruise,
they're gonna report because they think like, what's going on with you? But you don't want people like that. So coming forward to just being transparent, like, and you know, I know the signs of it. We can further discuss that too. Signs of DV.
And you're welcome.
It's another question. It's a good one too. My friend DA dropped all charges of her abuse and they will not help her. What can help her now?
Okay. Which that happens too.
Hmm.
So she, in regards to what do you mean? So if she dropped the charges, what do you mean, like resources or other ways? Like,
I'm not too sure, but
hmm.
she's watching, so she can respond to that.
Yeah.
And if two, I can DM you Ashley's personal information, her information. You guys could discuss it further.
Mm-hmm.
And I will definitely put in the comment section,
Mm-hmm.
the caption section, so anybody have any further questions as well, that if we don't answer it on live, that you can answer it here.
Okay. Um, ooh, sorry, excuse me. Okay, so you said she dropped the charges, right? So I would say other resources, huh?
The DA dropped the charges.
Oh, okay. So did the person have like legal aid? I don't know. I'm quite sure she probably had a like a public defender, possibly because if okay, sorry, I'm reading out the thing. But yes, there's the legal aid, right? That's in like kind of like a free resource that she can try to like utilize to go further more about it and
Mm-hmm.
get more information. They can help more with that. So that's like a free like legal counseling type of thing. Another thing too, if I'm not sure like her state of mind, but another thing too is mental counseling. I think she should definitely try to get into as well, and also discussing that once again, you just never know what service provider has resources, right? You
Right.
can be talking about one service provider about something, they're like, oh yeah, why don't you try this place and this place so I could put in a referral. You just
Right.
never know.
Right.
But I would say try legal aid as in regards because they can help with like the whole court process and dig back into it, and they have access to that. Also, there are legal advocates as
Good.
well. So legal aid would be like, attorneys, and then they also may have like legal advocates as well. Legal advocates actually go with you to the courtroom, but they just kind of don't really talk. It's more of you talking if you're able to, because court you're not really able to talk
Well,
technically.
so
um
likely.
right, you're there for the moral support.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Good. That's good. And know that some there with you,
Right.
they're not different. Some people don't have family members,
Mm-hmm.
have a friend, or they just want to be discreet about it and like because they're embarrassed of the situation.
Right.
Somebody else who they really don't know but trust them because it's
Mm-hmm.
different works good too. Um, Also, it was another question about the ordering pizza thing. I always mention that. Um, it is on my website, www.mysafeface.org. I put up 2 clips of how to call 911 and order the pizza. So just a little brief thing about it for the people. It's just for people who, of course, is in a situation that's in home and they need support right now. Like I feel safe. I don't feel safe. This person have a gun or he has a knife on, and I just want to do it. So we're trying to be very discreet about that. So if everybody knows about it, then it's like okay, she's been
Right.
ordering pizza for 15 minutes now. It don't take that long, But we're gonna
Right.
wait. So go on my website and it's there. And yeah, and just
Mm-hmm.
to go on it and view it so you can see how it's played out. It's better when you physically like see it than versus than talking about it. But it's like now we're gonna switch gears a little bit, you know. Um, when people's in are in domestic violence and they're physically or in verbal, all types of that, just leave. That line. Just leave. Why don't you
Mm-hmm.
leave? Just leave. What is your opinion on that? Just leave.
So I always say easy said than done,
Right.
right? In situations. Um, it's not easy to leave,
Right.
right? You're welcome. It's not easy to leave in regards to there's different reasons why. There's fear of the person may kill them.
Mm-hmm.
There's fear of retaliation, even
Mm-hmm.
if it's just not, killing a person. Retaliation, um, saying to people going to their job, harming a close one. There's so many different things. Or they feel like, wait, or victim blaming. That's the number one.
Right.
Victim blaming, like, you know what, it's my fault, I shouldn't have, or like, I guess I kind of trigger him. That's honestly the number one thing as to why I feel like it's also hard for a person to
Mm-hmm.
leave. But easy said than done. Or there's even a bond, right? Say like, oh my God, I only knew this person for all these years. They've always been my support. I don't have anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, maybe he or she is gonna change.
Right.
There's so many different things. It's, once again, easy said than done. And it also, you know, takes time, like, for the person to try to move forward. You know what I mean? So it may be like, okay, it took some time, or it could be like, oh no, I got out of this situation so
Right.
quick. But also it takes time, and also some people, once again, I'm a big believer on when people know resources, it helps a lot more, because a lot of people may not think like, oh, I didn't even know I could do this, or I didn't even know this is out here, or I just thought it was this, or I kind of heard about this. Once there's also resources out, different resources, I feel like that also helps too.
Right.
You know, because it's like, oh, I don't have nowhere to go. So people are like, I don't have nowhere to go, so I'm gonna stay here. Oh, he or she provides.
Yep.
I'm gonna just stay here. Oh my God, we have a child
Mm-hmm.
together. I'm so scared. What you try to hurt me or hurt the child, and we've been seeing that a lot lately on
Yeah.
social media. In regards to that, so you know, it's easy said than done in general.
Yeah, it's a lot of situations where it's like you just leave, like, okay, it's you want me to just leave, but then I look at it too, like now that I'm older, because before I was like, what, just leave, like, what's the problem? But then like now I'm older, I educated myself how hard it is to just leave. And it's like, what's the difference between you're in a regular relationship and the dude is doing dirty, doing you wrong with it, why don't you just leave then? Oh, because I love him, because I do this, because it's the same exact thing. Like everybody has reasons why they're staying with this person and why that. Yeah, it's like, okay, oh, it can never be me. It can be you one day. You just never know. Like in a situation, you'd be like, yeah, let me humble you a little bit, just because you're being so judgmental to the next person. And domestic violence, it's so hard. Like it's extremely hard. Like I know family and I have no friends who have been through that, and it's like they have overcame it, yes, but now it's like, what do you do now? It's like the after process. Now you overcame that, but so much trauma that comes with it. And the thing too that we're gonna discuss further is like, what's the next step after you did the huge step? You did that that step. I got over that hump. Now what's after that? Don't turn back. You know, that's the title, was Turn Around, like hoping for the better. Yeah. Once you get over it, move forward, go. And there's resources out there to help you with that, counseling, therapy, you know, a lot of journals. It's a lot of different things that can help you to move forward with that. Because, you know, some people are in domestic violence, but they're comfortable. They're comfortable because they don't know anything else. Like you said, like, I'm comfortable, I love this person, and this is what I feel like I deserve. Like, this is love to me.
Childhood trauma. You know, they've seen a parent, whoever, domestic violence, any type of domestic violence. They're like, well, I just seen this growing up, or maybe I just felt like this was okay. That's another thing too. A lot of trauma definitely could come from childhood.
Yes.
It's something, as you get older, you may end up like realizing that different things. You're like, oh, I didn't realize I started acting like this because I'm thinking of the trauma I dealt with this person, but then you don't realize it. Some traumas you may feel like you're able to identify yourself, but then afterwards you're kind of like, I'm getting older. I didn't realize I'm treating this person like this because of a trauma that I had. You know what I mean? So just dealing with that, and I feel like dealing with trauma from a younger age can help. Yes, trauma can kind of always be there. You know what I mean? It's just how you deal with it, how you cope positively with things. And, you know, I always say turning your negative into a positive. That's like my go-to. Right? So that has it, working on that, you know, even if you're not working on it from childhood, and even adult, you could still work on it. That's completely fine. There are resources. I know there's a telehealth, right? You got the telehealth. You can contact anybody, any type of hours, to speak about. Right. So,
yeah, because we always see, like, they always tell men, like, society, don't hit a female, don't ever put your hands on a female. But then it's like, what you see, like when you're younger, like you see like your parents going through domestic violence, and then what society is telling you, like how do I match up? Like how do I balance the two? Because you want me to do this, but I seen that, so I'm guessing that's right because of this. And it's like now
Right.
that male or female inflict that pain on somebody else because that's what they see, that's what they know. That's how love
Mm-hmm.
is demonstrated. But love is never supposed to hurt that bad, especially physical marks and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
it definitely stems from childhood. Like what you see is what you do, and then when you get older, do as I say, not as I
So
do.
do.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's like,
Right.
but what we do, So it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely hard, and um, that's why you said there's resources out there, and please don't be ashamed of being in the domestic violence, because I always look at it like you can be in this situation, but then you got somebody who's worse, like somebody who's getting shot and killed, and there's so many things on the news. That's why I don't watch the news, because it's so depressing, like murder suicides, like then
Mm-hmm.
domestic violence. And I always say like a female, I have the statistics on it that too,
Mm-hmm.
like the females, is the murder suicide rate in females is so high.
Mm-hmm.
94% of murder suicides are females, and that's because they just reach their breaking point. Like their breaking
Right.
point, they don't know what else to do but to kill that person, and that's when like that's the end of the road right there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
do I want to jail for killing this person? I just want to end it here. Like I don't feel like it's nothing. I'm just end it, which is what we're trying to prevent. So if we can catch it earlier, and if somebody who's going through it, let's try
Mm-hmm.
to help discreetly if possible. Let's
Right.
just try to help. Be there for one another. Support is free, so
Mm-hmm.
let's just do it. Now, you do we do all have our personal feelings about the topic, and then you have your professional feelings. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you balance it?
So with that, in this type of field work, it's normal to be biased, but then you can't be
Right,
biased. For instance, like if I'm speaking to a victim and they're saying a story, I can't be like, oh God, like I can't say that. I still have to work with this victim and understand them, right? I always say to my clients that I look from everyone's point of view, right? If there's a situation I'm able to hear from, say, another service provider and then the victim, and you know what I mean? I like to hear from both. So it's just not one. It's like, okay, I hear from you and I hear from you.
right,
But I just you can't be I feel like in this type of field work in human services it's hard not to be biased, absolutely,
hmm
but then also you can't really necessarily pick and choose a client or a victim. You can maybe vent to your supervisor and be like, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of a really sensitive topic and I don't know how I'm gonna deal with it, especially if you have that support from your job, which is a big thing,
right,
especially in this type of field work. I mean, anywhere you need that support, at your job,
right,
definitely, because it sucks when you don't have no support at your job. Like that is not it.
right,
um but I just try to once again utilize my supports, either speak to a coworker or speak to my boss about it and just be like, I kind of feel this way, just separate it. But I can't just go into a room, and that also doesn't make the person comfortable, because then once again, right, people say, oh, I don't want to do mental health counseling because they're gonna judge me, or they're gonna be like, okay, they're just looking at me like this, they're not
hmm
saying nothing. They're like, so why didn't you do this? That's very uncomfortable. You know what I
yes,
mean? That doesn't make the person want to talk or anything,
right,
especially like when you're building rapport with the
right,
person.
definitely. Having rapport is most important
Mm-hmm.
than actual, like, I can't describe it. Like I can relate to you because I know, like, we make me comfortable, I can open up a little bit more. If we don't have a relationship, I'm gonna be so closed off, and then I'm
Right.
not getting that I need. And that's what I'm here for. I need to get the help. But if you make me feel some type of way, even if you go to a regular doctor's office, and there's plenty of times
Mm-hmm.
I feel so uncomfortable because X, Y, and Z, and I don't feel like
Mm-hmm.
I got the care that I needed.
Right.
Is ignoring a form of emotional abuse? That's a good question, because
That is a very good question.
neglect, and that could be a mental, emotional abuse,
Right.
neglect, so that it could be form of
I
emotional.
feel like, yeah, ignore it, because it's like, what if you're trying to, excuse me, what if you're trying to vent to someone, to your, person, and they're just like, that's messing with you
Yeah.
emotional. Like, you're gonna be like, you're not, that's like mental, emotional, they're not actually hearing you out. They completely ignore you. That's gonna drive you insane.
Right. And it's like you're not being heard in your relationship.
Right.
Everything you say, like, it's important in my life, you just put in a blind ear.
Right.
It's not like I don't want to talk to you, and that puts a damper on the relationship to where you just off like I can't talk to my partner, like.
Right. Or there's like ignoring where, you know, say the abuser is like yelling, calling them crazy names, and they're like, you know, I'm so used to, I'm ignoring it because it's just not right for me. It's more of like my defense mechanism, my coping method, to where I'm ignoring because it's just gonna mess with me mentally, or it's either I'm ignoring because I don't want him or her to hit me or something of that sort. So it could kind of go both ways.
Right. Yeah, definitely. It's just so much out there. Like, you don't even know what can be abused, what not abused. But then once you sit there and you really do the research and you educate yourself, you talk to the resources. Resources is free, guys. Ashley's gonna provide that too. If you reach out for her, does it? She can help you with the different counties you are, depending on where you are. But you can just educate yourself on it, because you'll be surprised how ignorant we are to it. Because when I was younger, I could say I was definitely ignorant. Like, why are you dealing with that? Like, it can never be me. Never be like, I thank the Lord I have not been in a abusive relationship, but it's still like, let me empathize with this person. Let me put myself in their shoes, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's a lot. They are the strongest people ever. So when they overcome it and now they can tell their story, and that makes them stronger. You know, that's what the episode is about. Because I've had a lot of different people reach out to me because they know that we was doing this topic, and it's like just keeping her discreet. Like, she was a victim of domestic violence, and like she lost her sight because of it. So it was like severe abuse, to where now it's like it's permanent damage to them.
Right.
You know. So what ways can a person discreetly try to get help? And one, we already said, like the ordering pizza, to having a safety plan. But what are some other ways that you feel like a person can get help? I was thinking, like, when we was conversing before, like putting a note in your child's backpack or something like that, to where you can discreetly get help.
I would say a lot of times I would say victim would try to find a way of, like, say if they're able to go to the store, you know, they'll make a phone call at the store, outside, going to their car, getting gas, like, you know, things like that, if they're able to do that. So that's like another discreet way. People like, or a safe word, or once again, there's the national hotline. People can contact that as well. That's anonymous, that's confidential. They don't see your number necessarily, you know. I don't think they really ask your name. I'm not exactly sure. I know that I don't really ask the name, because usually when somebody calls to vent, it's more of like they just want to allow them to talk. Because if you're asking their name and they're like, why are you asking my name? What is this for? I just called to just talk. Why? Like, are you having all my, you know, information? So in regards to that, calling in and venting, or, you know, if they're able to take down a number of a resource, if they're able to provide, I always ask, do you feel safe? Do you have a safe number we can use? Do you have a safe address? That doesn't mean where they live. They could put somebody else's address, you know, or a different number, and they're like, oh, call this number, things like that. So that could be discreet ways, and that's the number one thing I ask before anything. Like, documents, safe place, safe address, email. Is it okay to contact this? Is it okay to say this? It's like, for instance, right? GYN, right? They ask, like, okay, you know, any thing with your test, it's okay if we call and we say we're Planned Parenthood, or right? Or they like, or we just won't say, we'll just say something else, like things like that. So there's so many different, like, discreet ways of kind of trying to maneuver it the best you can.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just all about trying to get help. And like Natasha said, a safe code with a friend. Every time I think safe word, it always refers me back. You know, this is a safe situation, but when Kevin Hart said his safe word is pineapples. So it was just like, just having different words, and then you have friends But if you are in a situation where you are isolated and you confined to your house because of the abuse and you have no social interaction, that will be a little bit harder. So that one free chance that you can get was like that person is on them. Like, I'm going to the store, whatever case it be. I seen a video. It was a boyfriend and a girlfriend or the man. I'm not too sure their status. But she went to the doctor and she had a note in her pocket. And she went up there and like, oh, do you have a bathroom key? And she left the note there. And then the note said like, this man has a gun. He's trying to harm me, whatever. So he's like, okay. And it was very discreet. So they kept them in the room, whatever. And now the guy's getting impatient. Like, okay, what's going on? What's going on? But little did they know that they was calling the police to get the person arrested. And like, you should have seen I seen the relief that came off her body. Like, she felt safe. You know, so it's like different situations where just think about like, okay, I get 10 minutes by myself a day. What can I do within the 10 minutes to save my life?
Right.
What I do is try to kill that person. Like, let's think about your family,
right?
The people out there that loves you and everything. They probably don't say it every day, but you are loved. If you need someone to talk to, you can reach out to Ashley. I'm going to put our contact. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to me. You can go to my website and we could talk there. You could stay anonymous. Whatever to best assist you. We're here to help.
Right.
And safety is important. If you have children as well, because you know, like that situation. I think it was Gabriel, that little boy who was being abused by both his parents, and Grits.
Oh my God, not Grits.
Like,
and thank you, none better.
Yeah, like sometimes you got that bold one, like, I'm gonna put him up. Like, I'm not gonna kill him, but I'm gonna get him. Like,
yeah, because it's your defense mechanism. You're so used to having to be on that, like that like, okay, well, he hit me, or you even may even know like him or she's like punches, like, okay, he's gonna punch me this way, he's gonna punch me, because it's been repeated. And so you already have that defense mechanism to where you're like, you're gonna have a reflex, right? You know what I mean? Or you're gonna end up snapping. Everyone has some type of defense mechanism. You know what I mean? Not in regards to necessarily that, but you know, it's like, for instance, us New Yorkers, right? Is, you know, we're walking, we're like, who is this? Like, that's just it's a defense mechanism.
Looking at, like, my mother's the one. If you look at my mother for a little bit too long, she's on your back. What the hell are you looking at?
It's a defense mechanism.
Don't stare at me for more than 2 seconds. Don't do it. Who we are, like, it's got that vibe. Like, but if we in the scenery for too long and somebody start moving funny, time to go. Like, now you stop coughing. Come on up, I'm out.
Or some people honestly don't even recognize, right? They're in a situation and I've asked, you know, have them explain the story, and they're like, okay, I don't even know. I just started swinging. I have no idea where you were on the ground. Well, I don't know, because you're just your defense mechanism. You're just like, you just snap. You have no idea. Or some people are like, oh, I just like covered my face like this to protect myself. I just was like eating the hits. But then also your body becomes numb, right? Like, someone goes into a shock. It's like, say if, I don't know, someone got stabbed or something, whatever, right? You're not gonna necessarily may not feel the pain right there and then, but then you feel eventually, you're like, oh yeah, damn, this hurts. I didn't realize. Like, you know, like, or you get a paper cut, you're like, damn, I think, damn, I didn't realize, when did I get this paper cut? It's like been hours. Yeah. You know, so your body becomes numb. Right. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just so many different things, and it's okay whatever state, like, whatever. They, like, only Florida has a stand your ground for. So whatever you do, but if you're thinking about doing something, not condoning it, right? Look at the law. Know your rights, know the law about how self-defense plays a part. Because you can, God forbid, you do hurt this person really bad, it's not murder or whatever, and then get charged, you be like, but I defended myself. I was being abused all this time. So it was just like, how is it on me? So just know your rights and read the laws about where you're at, and which could be hard though to understand the law. Law is not written for everybody, right? The wording of things. There's mandatory arrest, there's mandatory prosecution. Mandatory arrest, some people may not want that. That's like, oh my God, well, I know I called you guys, but then again, like, damn, I don't want you to arrest him or her. You know what I mean? But then when it comes to domestic violence situations, they may end up right away, especially the severity.
Mm-hmm.
They will arrest the person right away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's up to you if you continue to press the charges. Right. So there's things like that. There's order protection, right? You could go to a court, get that too. Now, that could be if somebody comes, the person comes to your property. You know, now, okay, you call the police. They were on your property. You saw. Right. So there's things like that. And also, I know, like, even way back because, like, criminal justice degree, way back in the day, they used to actually come to people's home and actually have them talk it out. Okay, you guys need to sit down and talk, officers. That's what it was. It wasn't necessarily mandatory arrest, necessarily mandatory prosecution. It was like, okay, you guys need to really just talk it out and, like, sit aside. But now that's not necessarily it. Granted, there's not all situations that goes well with, you know, it may not go like, oh my God, I called them, they didn't do anything. Mm-hmm. So, you know, laws, and that's where you go to these resources, you look for the legal aid, counseling, any legal services that you go to that say if you don't have the money that it's free, try it. There's pro bono attorneys, right? Things like that.
Definitely take advantage of it.
Yeah. But thanks for it.
Slowly closing down.
Sorry. Okay.
No, but you guys, we are having a giveaway. Ash would like to give away. She's going to explain what some of the items that she's giving away are.
Okay. So, this is a lavender and brown sugar scrub. I make these stuff by hand, by the way. So it's brown sugar, organic raw honey, lavender buds, and then there's lavender essential oil and sweet almond oil. You can honestly use this to exfoliate your whole body. This is like one of my number one sellers, honestly. And you know, I had put it more for the yoni area, the private area, but honestly, you can use it over your whole body. I've used it for my face, my legs, just put it all over. I love a good scrub. So for that, and then the yoni steamer herbs, right? I know a lot of people are like, oh, I wanted to yoni steamer, but I don't know. I don't have the chair or things like that, which I'm going to end up getting portable seats again, by the way, everyone. Yes, follow my page. But with this helps with painful periods. I have done yoni steaming before a period, or, you know, people could do it before sex or after sex, or a lot of people give childbirth and then cleanse after to clean like the womb. And also, I always say yoni steaming is also therapeutic, right? Because the smell of, like, the lavender, right? When you smell it, you smell all the herbs. Lavender is relaxing. So you sit down, you know, you write down your notes, listen to music, whatever, right? So if you don't have a seat, you know, boil the herbs in a pot, wait till it cools over in your hoo-ha, wait till it cools a bit, and then if you have a metal bowl, you'll kneel over it, and then like cover with a blanket or a towel on the ground. So that's another way you can do it. I don't really recommend like the commode seat because that's plastic, and like you're not supposed, plastic isn't good. So putting heat to plastic, it's a no-go. But I'm gonna have portable seats soon to where it boils the herbs for you. You can regulate your temperature. You can plug it in. And you could put it in your living room, your bedroom, right? Whatever works for you. Good. So yeah, and excited.
That giveaway, I will be putting a post after this. So, and it's gonna be on mine, her page. I'm gonna put all the information. So all you have to do is follow both of our pages, tag somebody, and once they follow both of our pages, then you're in the giveaway. Last time, I gave away 2 prizes because of my achievements. So we're going to add to that, on top of that, I will be giving away a healing journal. That's one of a big thing that I've been requested to make, a healing journal, plus her feminine. This is life. Like, this is life. Come on now.
Self-care, self-love.
Yeah, who don't want people products now? Come on now. So while you steaming the urban, you can write in the journal.
It's right in.
You know, so I will be posting that on our page and her page, and I will put all the information below. I will be putting the national hotline number up, all the stuff that you want, and her information too, if you want to reach out to her to get some more information. She's very resourceful, and she keeps everything confidential. Great young lady, very professional. She keeps. And the next episode for me will be April, I think 5th or 12th, one of the two. Then whatever I do, everybody knows. And we'll
say it's the 12th.
The 12th.
Right?
Right?
Yeah.
So, boom, she's
Got you. We
loyal.
here. Yeah. Locked in. Switch
We're
up.
talking about loyalty versus trust. That was one that was on my website, and people DM me talking about it. Like, you should have it on your pockets. I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, and that is two things that go hand in hand or don't go hand. Like, it's so much things around loyalty and trust. It's like, whatever. And I hope some males jump in on that topic, because I need some answers. And like, because I need some answers. And males don't want to be given, but I need some males to tap in. But I thank you so much, Ashley, for doing this. And we will be having a part 2 to this session.
Yes.
About your healing journey, and
Yes.
next time you guys can tap in. Any survivors out there that want to share their story and use this platform. It's for everybody, you know. And thank you for everybody that joined in. I hope you.
Yes. Thank you all.
Great. I will be pinning this to my page so you can share, tag somebody under it. And to visit my page. The page right now, the topic is, of course, the domestic violence, and the order pizza clip is up there as well, so people that want to see it. And I hope you guys enjoyed.
Thank you, Tati.
Ashley.
Follow Tati, y'all.
Right. And see you guys next time.
Bye.